Some informations about Dobrović in his concerning his period in Greece and in Italy mainly. On Dobriadis before Dobrović at the Accademia di San Luca in Rome. The figure of Dimitar Dobrović in the original version of his name, exactly Dobrović, is almost totally unknown in Greece. Although his name in the Greek version, Dimitrios Domvriadis, is mentioned in various occasions concerning the history of Greek painting of the 19th century, we keep getting poor information. If, for example, we consult the most recent analytical dictionary of Greek artists published in Athens between 1997 and 2000, we read in the entry Domvriadis or Domvridas that he studied in the School of Arts in Athens between 1844 and 1848, taking part in the annual competitions, that afterwards he went in Rome with a scholarship to continue his studies in the Accademia di San Luca, that he took part in an exhibition that was organized in Athens in 1875, and finally that the study of the Italian art of the previous centuries, of the Renaissance and Baroque, is apparent in his works. Then, how his personality developed in Italy is equally unknown. That is to say, that the figure of Dobrović is almost totally unknown also in Italy. An entry about Dobrović cannot be found, this is the entry in this Greek dictionary, but also in Italy, an entry about Dobrović cannot be found in any of the very analytical biographical dictionaries of Italian artists, like this is the more recent history of Greek of painting of 19th century, in which the name of Dobrović is totally absent. So, but also in the more analytical dictionary, like Bolafis, for instance, not even in the Dizionario Biografico degli Italiani, which as a rule includes not only Italians, but also the ones who had some relationship, even a temporary one, with the Italy. And we know that Dobriadis or Dobrović stayed in the Italian peninsula for almost half a century. Finally, even if we search into the most analytic and informed international dictionaries of artists, like Grovart or Zaur Allgemeines Künstlerlexikon, we still won't find any additional information to the already mentioned in the Dictionary of Greek Artists. Precisely, in the Grovart, there is no name of Dimitar Dobrović or Domvriadis, neither in the entry Bulgaria. In the more analytical biographical dictionary of the world, there is only an entry of Domvriadis Dimitrios with very poor information about the artists, edited in 2001. This leaves us with the impression that Dobrović's artistic personality is still not described. Let us return to his Greek environment, as the painter is represented as a Greek artist in a large part of bibliography, like here. Based on the few available pieces of information, we can follow his course sporadically for a minimum amount of time, as said, from 1844 to This is the entry of the Greek dictionary to 1850, and again 1875. There is nothing beyond that. The painter's tracks seem to vanish, and also paradoxically, they were never traced by anyone. With one exception, perhaps, when in the 1950s, the director of the National Gallery of Athens, Marinos Kaligas, was looking for information about the painter in northern Greece, planning a reorganization of the permanent exhibition of the gallery's collections, which then included 10 works by Dobrović. Exactly this presence of his works in the National Gallery of Athens, together with the repeating reformation that Dovriadis studied in the School of Arts and then was sent to the Accademia di San Luca, these were enough to give, however, the painter a somehow vague place in the history of Greek painting since the middle of the 20th century. But as said, there never followed an enrichment of these few known facts, neither a composition of the painter's personality. Obviously, it was considered that his case presented the same interest as that of many other artists who studied in the School of Arts and then went abroad, staying there for a smaller or greater amount of time before returning back to Greece. The fact that in the case of Dobriadis nothing else was known except his studies information did not seem to pose any kind of problem. Besides, that was the case for many other artists too of Ottocento of 19th century. So, when I decided a few years ago to carry out a research about the Greek students in the academies of fine arts in Italy, that was all the evidence available. My expectations for the documentation of Dobriadis' studies in the Accademia di San Luca in Rome came true, but trying to put these elements together in order to sustain a publication, I had to face a significant void. The facts available were still very poor. Although his studies in Rome were becoming more apparent, some basic questions remained without answer. How and where did Dobrović become active after his studies in the Accademia di San Luca? How exactly did he use all that he was taught there? Did he keep his bonds with Italian environment? During my research, I reached by chance the name Dobrović, and I discovered that an important name it is for the Bulgarian art. After a while, due to some more of a good fortune, the book on the Bulgarian students in the Italian academies by Angela Daneva reached the Institute for Mediterranean Studies in Crete at Rethymno, where we work on the research program Greek Artists in the West. Since then, we started a correspondence with Angela Daneva, and this is what brought me here today. So, my warm thanks to Angela Daneva for this invitation. Let us continue to talk about Dobriadis before Dobrović. That is, first, the painter's presence in the School of Arts in Athens. Second, his activities in the Accademia di San Luca in Rome. And third, the presentation of some facts concerning his activities in the Italian peninsula before his coming to Bulgaria. But before that, I think it would be useful to try to explain at least some part of what has already been said. Why Dobrović remains unknown in the Greek artistic environment, since he is the same person with Dobrović, with Dobriadis. I believe that the explanation will have to do with the historiographical priorities of art historians, and not only of art historians, but also with the almost total prevalence of the so-called School of Munich in the historiography of Greek art. According to all the relative bibliography, the influence of this school of Munich was catalytic for the Greek painting of 19th century. This view, that has the validity of an axiom, has brought the neglect of other factors, wholly overlooking important parts of 19th century Greek artistic production itself. In other words, we have been accustomed to regard Greek painting of the 19th century as a consequence and a result of the painting that was taught in the Academia of Fine Arts of Munich. This view is justified only up to a point. Due to the political bonds between Athens and Bavaria, many of the most notable Greek artists of 19th century indeed studied in Munich, in the Academia, in Kunstakademie of Munich. Nikolaos Gyzis, Nikiforos Litras, Konstantinos Volanakis, to name some of these. Moreover, the fact that Gyzis, the first, was elected professor in Munich's academy, certainly becoming a magnet for many Greek students who were going to Munich to learn from him, so solidified this view even more. If we want to see some pictures of these painters studied at Munich, this is the King Otto, a Bavarian king of Greeks. This is the painting of Nikiforos Litras, or of Gyzis, Litras, Volanakis. As we mentioned, this view is true only up to a point, as another important factor in the development of visual culture in the very young Greek state is overlooked. I mean the artists who studied in Italy, those who started or continued their studies in the Italian academies. Their cases never comprised an object for a systematic study. Some of them were important figures for the Greek artistic matters, considering that they consisted the majority of professors in the School of Fine Arts of Athens during the whole of 19th century. They have been the most active ones regarding exhibitions and commissions, and they were much greater in number than those who studied or continued their studies in Munich. This neglect has many causes that we cannot analyze right now. Let us just mention that most, if not all, of Greek art historians in the 18th century, the 20th century, that had some institutional role in the universities or elsewhere, those who shaped forms of historiography, more or less binding for the researchers who came after them, had a German education. What made them magnify the impact of German painting on the Greek artistic productions in the aftermath of the Second World War is not our issue today. Let us only add, as I think it is of a broader interest, that the German institutional side, bibliography, etc., emphatically projects this catalytic, as it claims, influence of Munich's academy teachings, seeking to expand this influence towards other countries of European periphery except Greece. What now can be documented in the archives of Italian academies of fine arts is that during the 19th century a great number of students, about 200, was sent or chose to study in cities of the neighboring peninsula, and mostly in Venice, a city that for centuries had been the political and cultural capital for many Greek populations. Other artists studied in Florence, Pisa, Naples, Milan, and of course Rome. In the Eternal City we can find about 50 students, including the students of the Accademia di San Luca from the late 18th century up to the beginnings of the 20th century, and the ones who studied in the Institute of Fine Arts in Ripetta after 1871. It is important that Greek students attend the Accademia di San Luca because this is the center of neoclassicism. It was neoclassicism at first, and then Romanticism, partly functioning in parallel, that were the conscious choices of intellectuals and scholars who were forming the ideologies in the struggling nation as much in the newly built state. We find a first generation of Greek students when Antonio Canova was director of the academy. Furthermore, we know that some Greeks living in Rome or in the rest of the Italian peninsula at the time encouraged or mediate for the Greek students in order to bring them to Canova. For example, Gerasimos Pidjamanos then went in Paris, then in Russia, etc. Some of the artists remain in Rome and other departs. The most famous example is Konstantinos Broumidis, the so-called Michelangelo of Washington's capital. In the same time, we find the time of Canova, we find many names of Greek artists who, after having studied in Rome, returned to Athens and started playing themselves a mediating role, paving the way for other artists towards the eternal city. The most important figure who, after studying many years in Rome, became the nucleus of this relationship of the most promising artists with Rome, thus creating a second, larger generation of artists in Rome, was this architect Lysandros Kaftazoglou. Kaftazoglou stayed in Rome in 1832-1838, studying architecture and winning prizes. Later, he became a corresponding member of the Accademia di San Luca. Lysandros Kaftazoglou, the most creative architect of neoclassic Athens, returning to the city, was elected director of the School of Arts, which he organized using the model of the Accademia di San Luca in studies program, in contests, in prizes, in speeches, etc. Many artists owe their studies in Rome to him, among them Dimitrios Dombriadis or Dobrovich. According to the archives, this is the generation after Kaftazoglou of the professors of the School of Arts in Athens. According to the archives of the School of Arts and the speeches given by its director, Lysandros Kaftazoglou, Dimitrios Dombriadis studied in the school between the years 1844 and 1848. Since he was born in 1816, he was almost 30 by then, which means he had already taken lessons in painting, probably in Istanbul. His teachers in the School of Arts in Athens were Philippos and Georgios Margaritis, maybe the French Pierre Bonirot, and certainly the Italian Raffaello Ceccoli. The first two were brothers and essentially the first professors of the school. Filippo Margheriti studied with a scholarship given by the first governor of Greece, Ioannis Kapodistrias, in the Accademia di San Luca, and later in the Academy of Fine Arts in Venice. He came to Athens in 1837, became professor in the School of Arts in 1842, teaching painting as well as photography, being one of the first photographers in Athens. We can see here some of his pictures. Photos. Maybe the first photos in Greece. Maybe his brother, Georgios Margaritis, studied painting and lithography in Paris and opened a lithographic studio returning to Athens. These two paintings of him. We know that Raffaello Ceccoli, the third teacher, teaches painting in the School of Arts maybe the same year, 1843. Dombriadis painted a portrait of Raffaello's wife, a work that lies in the National Gallery of Athens. Dombriadis took part in the annual expositions, competitions of the school that started in the period 1844 to 1845. We can see here the prizes of Dombriadis. Practically always takes the first prize. This is the exhibition of 1846. The first prize, a nude, copy from a nude, together with Alexandros Damiris. Poi, then the exhibition of 1847, always Dovriadis the first prize. 1848, the first prize, again with a nude, but also, except these paintings mentioned like in the prize, we saw in these archives that exhibited also other portraits of the elite, we can say, of Athens in this time. In 1849, there is no prize for Dovriadis. There is some paintings of him in the exhibition, and the explanation is that already was in Rome. The same in 1815. In 1851, that sent from Rome paintings in Athens. Having studied with the professors mentioned and under the direction of Kaftazoglou, it is not surprising that Dovriadis continued his studies in Italy, and especially in Rome, where he went together with the Alexandros Damiris. This is a painting of Alexandros Damiris, obviously copying the famous painting of Raphael and his students in Vatican, now in the city of Ioannina in Epirus, with whom Dovriadis, it seems that he collaborates frequently since the years in the School of Arts. It has been said that Dovriadis studied in Rome with a scholarship given by King Otto of Bavaria, of Greeks. Nevertheless, according to Kaftazoglou, in one speech of the School of Arts, Dovriadis was founded in Rome by Alexandros Ionidis, son of Konstantinos Ionidis, benefactor, merchant, and art collector, active mainly. This is another painting of Damiris. Alexandros Ionidis, benefactor, merchant, and art collector, active mainly in London. A family portrait of this family of Ionidis. In any case, in the historic archives of the Accademia di San Luca, we find Dovriadis from 1849 up to 1853. This is a mention of Dovriadis by Lysandros Kaftazoglou in one speech of this year, 1849, mentioning his studies in Rome, in Greek obviously, but in the Accademia di San Luca, in the archives of the Accademia di San Luca, we can trace these studies. This is a little interesting because there are a previously inscription of the Dovriadis something, and poi another Dovriadis Demetrio, 1850. This is the inscription, the first inscription of Dovriadis with a special letter for his case. Demetrio Dovriadis Ateniese from Athens. Then other documents, 1851, Demetrio Dovriadis, and we'll see his name also up to 1853. It is sure that Dovriadis was shaped under the influence of classicist prototypes and that he systematically copied Italian works of Renaissance and Baroque styles, but not only this. He occupied himself with the depiction of genre paintings and from paintings dal vero, from the nature, like this painting from 1815 maybe. But it's interesting also examine other pictures of Dovriadis, like this Italian village woman baby, or this copy from Guido Reni Aurora of Palazzo Rospigliosi Pallavicini. But maybe more interesting is this painting that mentioned there is a connection with Gerhard von Honthorst. Gerhard von Honthorst, an old northern painter of 7th century, but the important thing is that many students of Accademia di San Luca copied paintings of Gerrit von Honthorst or Gherardo delle Noti. For example, we see here a license to copy the La Sibilla di Gherardo delle Noti, that is Gerhard von Honthorst, for Costantino Iatra, another painter from Zante, from Zakynthos. So this is another, I think, aspect of the studies in the Accademia di San Luca by Dombriadis. Okay. But what did he do after his studies in the Accademia? We know that sends pictures from Rome to Athens, for example, these copies of the Ezekiel of Raphael's works. This painting, copy of this painting, is lays in National Gallery of Athens, but in one other name, and no other the name of Dombriadis is a question that we have to correct. What did he do after his studies in the Academia Dobrovic? There is a gap here, and this is the greatest part of what remains to be discovered. It is generally known that he was involved in revolutionary actions, an issue that will come back. But what about his artistic activities, or documents about the artistic activity? Until when did Dombriadis or Dobrovic stay in Rome? What was his work there after the Academia? What kind of relationship did he develop with in his new homeland? We present here some fragmentary but indicative information addressing these questions. We know that Dombriadis was involved in the initiative to set up a society of Greek artists who lived in Rome in the middle of 19th century. If nothing else, this shows that he did not just stay permanently in the Eternal City, but he was also very active. According to the contests of its still unrecorded Statuto Charter, this society was named Society of Greek Artists in Rome, in Greek here. It was founded in 1865 with the cooperation of the Greek consul in Rome, Augusto Gautier, Greek consul but French. The artists signing the Statuto are Dimitrios Dombriadis is the first, like the founders. Then Stefanos Varoutis, a sculptor, Dimitrios Keratiotis, a painter, Leonidas Drosis, a very famous sculptor in Athens, but also in Rome and in Naples of Italy, Kosmas Apergis, sculptor, Dimitrios Philippidis, sculptor, and Adonios Fragoulis, painter. They had all been in the Eternal City as students and further developed some artistic activity. Dombriadis, apart from being a founding member, the first group, was elected secretary, there was no president, and treasurer of this society. Their purpose was the support of their compatriots and the promotion of their artistic productions, as we read in this charter. The Statuto, the charter, may be read as evidence of the great number of Greek or Greek-born students that stayed or came through Rome. The charter, put together in Italian, was published in a Greek translation in the magazine Pandora in 1868, which means it was still active by then. We can read in this charter that purpose of the company is to promote fine arts, especially painting and sculpture, among the Greek youth that strives to learn and practice them in Rome. Also, we read that the necessary capital will be gathered from spontaneous contribution of Philhellenes, of art enthusiasts, from regular member subscriptions, and, we read also, from the interest that yields from all the above contributions. Furthermore, the company, the society, we read, may, in due time, assign a certain amount of money in order to prepare an exhibition of Greek artists, pre-publishing the program in domestic, Italian, or foreign newspapers, and to honor especially the Greek youth awarding prizes. The rest of the story of this society is yet to be discovered. Dobriadis, apart this initiative, Dobriadis' concern to participate into Greek artistic activities can be proved by his sending work from 5 works from Rome for an exhibition in 1875. This is an error here, with 5 works. It is very likely that he took part in other group exhibitions. Other testimonies useful for the investigation of the artistic as well as the political activities of Dobrovic can be drawn from the correspondence between 2 important persons of the Italian Risorgimento and also Philhellens that can be found in the Biblioteca Nazionale Centrale in Florence. There is the correspondence between Domenico Comparetti, 1927, scholar, prolific writer, and senator of the Kingdom of Italy, and the notable historian and patriot Gherardo Neruzzi, 1828-1906. Their correspondence proves that they both knew Dobriadi well, together with many other Greeks who lived in the Italian peninsula, mainly in Rome and Tuscany. Neruzzi had started to learn Greek from students in Pisa. Later on, he studied the language more deeply, and in 1862 he published in Florence, 1862, we'll see this data also later. In Florence, he studied La pronuncia della lingua greca, the pronunciation of Greek language. In 1848, a year of riots against Austrian domination in Italy, while Dobriadis lives in the Italian peninsula, Neruzzi was at the forefront, together with other students of the University of Pisa, in one of the most important battles against the Habsburg in Montanara. He continued his military actions against the Habsburgs in the following years, like in 1851, in the riots against the Grand Duke Leopold II. Neruzzi met Comparetti in Rome in 1849, and it is likely that he also met Dobriadi in the same time, if not earlier. Neruzzi's biographer, Francesco Rosso, already in 1902, informs us that Neruzzi met Demetrio Dobriadis in Rome and with his help got deeper into Greek language, the ancient as well as the modern. Francesco Rosso, Notizie biografiche di Gherardo Neruzzi, Fossano, 1902, a fact that helps us understand parts of the correspondence between Comparetti and Neruzzi. Let us read some fragments of this correspondence that mention Dobriadis. Maybe in this epoch the figure of Dobriadis is in this photo. Neruzzi a Comparetti in a letter written in Greek. There are 2 Italians, the correspondence is in Greek, mostly ancient Greek. 13 July 1855. In translation, I bought a few shirts for Dobriadis that I sent in Rome for the Greek to receive. I addressed them to your drugstore for the expediency. To the mentioned Fred Dobriadis, to whom I'll write soon, I beg you to give the envelope as soon as it arrives. In another letter, again in Greek, 12 of July 1856, he sends greetings to Dobriadis through Comparetti. And again, 3rd October of the same year, also in Greek, I wished to learn Dobriadis' fortune. I wrote to him twice and did not get an answer. Please, look for him and tell him to write to me and send me my picture. As we gather from other parts of the same letter, he means Neruzzi's portrait made by Dombriadis, who is supposed to be in Montale of Tuscany at the time. This portrait is still missing. Comparetti answers to Neruzzi in a letter written in Latin. In another letter written by Comparetti to Neruzzi, dated in Rome, 7 April 1859, we can read, Dombriadis greets you and would like to know if Kounelakis is still in Florence. The same can be found in his letter, again from Rome, 11 June 1859. Dombriadis greets you and asks news of Kounelakis. From these letters, we learn about the acquaintance, possibly the collaboration of Dombriadis with Nikolaos Kounelakis, one of the most important Greek painters of the 19th century, who stayed in Tuscany together with his family, working between Florence and Siena for 1 decade. Some pictures made by Kounelakis in Florence and in Siena, the family of the artists. In another letter of Neruzzi to Comparetti, there is a clear reference to his acquaintance with Dombriadis and to the teaching by the latter of Greek language, Montale, 10 February 1862. In 1853 and 1854, I studied a little more ancient Greek and modern too, under the direction of Dombriadis. In another occasion, I am in Rome. I'll stay a few more days. I found many old friends, except D. Dombriadis, written in Greek, who I was not able to trace. Do you know where he is? In many other occasions, he asks Dombriadis news and sends him greetings. Also, it is apparent that Dombriadis addresses letters to him that are not traced yet, maybe in Florence or in Siena or in Montale, I think. Dombriadis' participations in the circle of these patriots, Neruzzi, Comparetti, active also in the riots against the Austrians, may therefore be connected with his involvement in revolutionary movements. The above fragments shows us, apart from a certain familiarity, that the painter shared the same ideals of independence against foreign domination. We also know, vaguely still, that Dombriadis had participated already in 1848, being 32 years old, in the uprisings of that year in Rome under the flag of Garibaldi and Giuseppe Mazzini. Furthermore, in 1860, he took part in the famous expedition of the Thousands, La Spedizione dei Mille in Sicily. Dombriadis was certainly not the only painter that got involved in revolutionary movements. Many painters, Greek and others, Italian and others, did the same. A similar case is Levidis from Constantinople, who, persecuted because of his involvement, found refuge in Romania later on. His course is in a way parallel to that of Dombriadis, became the painter par excellence of the Iasios elite. Personalities like that of Dombriadis, multifaceted and interesting in many ways, having led adventurous life that spread in many countries, would probably have to engage the researchers in a much greater extent. But the nationalistic priorities, together with many other factors, political, ideological, or historiographical, held back the study of these cases that can offer many conclusions in an artistic level. At this initiative of the new Bulgarian University, organizing an international conference and through its other activities, really gives us the opportunity to study the case of Dimitar Dobrović on a European level. Let us work in today's critical circumstances towards the best direction, that of the collaborations. Thank you very much for the attention. Also, thank you.
Forse non lo so. Aspetta. Bene?
Okay. Δεν ακούω τίποτα. Όχι. Now, yes, okay, it's okay.
Въпроси пак да попитам? Кой ще послуша? Няма да ще послушавам. Няма нужда.
Преди въпросите, огромна благодарност на...
Excuse me, but I don't... There is no sound. Okay, thank you. Okay. Πολύ λίγο. Okay now. Okay now. Okay, perfect. Yes.
Огромна благодарност на колегата доктор Панайотис Йоанов. Неговата лекция за всички, предполагам, беше много интересна, с много нови факти, които прибави към известната за нас до сега история на Добриадис Добрович. За мен лично също така тази беседа беше на много високо ниво, с много голям интерес и слушах колегата. Разбира се, ние ще продължим в частен разговор, може би детайли, но сега няколко неща, които, наверно, и за нашата аудитория ще представляват интерес. Много интересен беше за мен акцентът върху Мюнхенската школа и оценката на мюнхенските възпитаници. Аз лично много отдавна съм се сблъскала с този проблем, много преди да се обърна към случая Добрович, защото в съществуващата литература европейска, която следва очевидно гръцка традиция, огромният акцент през 19 век се поставя именно на Мюнхен. Това е минало, аз съм руски възпитаник, и това е преминало дори в руската литература и да речем в едно капитално изследване върху Гърция и гръцкото изкуство и гръцките художници почти не се обръща внимание на тези, които са учили в Италия или в Париж. Генералният акцент въпреки че аз сега се връщам от Атина с специален интерес към някои неща и мога да кажа, въпреки че реално мюнхенското влияние се засилва в Гърция, сигурно е силно, но то се засилва малко дори след Добрович. То е с идването на Лудвиг Хирш. Тоест, когато Добрович учи в Атина, все пак мюнхенското влияние не е толкова силно. Там са други влиянията и един друг характер, по-общо европейски, неокласицистично романтичен. Но това беше така интересен момент, който предполагам и за тук нашата аудитория има значение да се подчертае. Сега любопитен момент беше споменаването на Александрос Дамирис, който според доктор Йоано не само, че е в близко сътрудничество с Домбриадис в Гърция, но че те заминават заедно за Рим. Това по-нататък ще искам точно документално да го изясним, защото по разказа на Добрович, а ние в България се базираме главно на това, което Добрович е разказал, когато се е върнал в България. Той е разказал живота си накратко пред професор Иван Шишманов и там той е споменал Дамирис, като Демири, са го записали, само като човек, който заедно с него е изпълнявал поръчки за икони за църквата в Оропос, със средствата, от което е заминал за Рим. И тъй като не намирахме Дамири в гръцката литература, ние решихме, че Дамири е зоограф, който заедно с Добрович е рисувал тези икони, както той сам е казал, в византийски стил, каквото и това да означава. А тук разбирам, че става дума за художник и не само за художник, който заедно с Домбриадис е заминал за Рим. Това е интересно, ако може да се докаже документално. Също така, неочаквано ми прозвуча и интересно упоменаването на стипендия от крал Отон I, за което никакво сведение нямаме, и също така за подкрепата на Александрос Йоанидис. Това за нас действително би било много важно да се установи документално. Приноса на доктор Йоано за намирането на следата на Добрович в Сан Лука е, разбира се, много важно, но още по-важна и неизвестна за нас, абсолютно неизвестна за нас, е неговата роля в дружеството на гръцките художници, с които очевидно Добрович е имал плътен контакт, защото междувременно, в последно време, беше преведено едно интересно писмо в нашите български архиви на гръцки език от представител на художественото училище до Домбриадис в Рим. Годината е 1887, в което писмо му благодарят за изпратените творби за нуждите на политехниката. Те са 3 вида. Гипсове, които са за учебната работа, които Добрович е подбрал и изпратил от Рим за Атина. Второ, скулптура или скулптури на скулптура Бонанос, който
Bonanos, a very famous sculptor.
Който тогава е бил съвсем млад. Той просто е бил съвсем млад. Това обаче означава, че Добрович наистина е имал широк кръг познати сред гръцките художници, ползвал се с авторитет, очевидно между тях, не само по възраст, и изпълнявал задачи, т.е. изпълнявал организационна работа по отношение на това общество. И трето, това са произведения на самия Добрович, за което му благодарят специално и му пишат, че те са прекрасни. Неговите творби са прекрасни. И че те се намират у госпожа Вулгари. Това е съпругата на Кризис, министър.
Кризис.
И се дава една много сериозна сума, на която те са оценени. За съжаление, никаква следа от тези произведения и сега в престоя си в Атина ние не можахме да открием. Между другото, дори работата, която вие показахте, че се намира в пинакотеката, те или не я водят за Добриадис, копието, или не го притежават вече, но това е въпрос между нас. Изключително важно и бих се радвала, ако вие ни предоставите документално, по-подробно информацията за кореспонденцията между тези двама италианци, с които непрекъснато се споменава името на Добриадис. Това е изключително важно, защото за нас този му период наистина е някакво бяло петно. Споменаването, че може би той е рисувал портрет на Неручи или Нерути, това също е нещо съвсем непознато за нас и от изключителна важност в този момент, в който ние работим върху проекта. И последният ми въпрос е свързан с пребиваване, с участието в революционните действия в Сицилия. Защото самият Добрович, когато разказва живота си на професор Шишманов, доста скромно казва, че той само тези 3 месеца в Рим, 49-та година всъщност, е бил под флага на Гарибалди. Никакво упоменаване няма за Сицилия. Значи въпрос е откъде идва тази информация. Още веднъж огромна благодарност.
Rispondi adesso per favore perché dopo ci sono altre
Sì,
domande.
ok. Σε ποια γλώσσα να απαντήσω? Αφού θα μεταφράσετε στα βουλγάρικα, ok. There is, thank you, okay, thank you very much for all of this. The first thing is, I think, I realize that Dovriadis or Dobrovich is a central figure for the artistic life of 19th century anyway. The other questions, the School of Munich is a great historiographical problem. In Greece, from the elementary school and later, everybody knows that in 19th century only painters studied in Munich were in Greece. I remember one morning I was in the library of the Academy of Fine Arts at Athens, another building. So they brought them a class of the elementary school, and the teachers said, here we have the painter Gysis from the School of Munich. One kid says, no, not even, again, the same thing. No, there is no other proposal from this period. The problem is academic. The professors, the directors shared this construction. They have had these constructions. It's very strong. Now, I prepared an article with the title "No at the School of Munich." I don't know if it will be published. Then we founded in these years a periodical of art history in Greece, so I think it published in this periodical and this. So about the documents, yes, with pleasure, all these documents that I founded, or the more important, I think, is the documents to be discovered. I have some thoughts about where these letters of Dobriadis are. The relation with Damiris. They went together at Rome. That says the director, Lystaros Kaftatzoglou, says in Greek, the speeches are the fine of every scholastical academic year, the progress of the students. Says always that Dobriadis and Damiris studied, collaborated, and then went together at Rome. The scholarship is by the king, Otto I, but the scholarships, I think, is very constituted from very few money. The figure of Ioannidis is central for understanding the academic life of Greek artists abroad, because Ioannidis from London sends money at Kaftatzoglou to contribute at the students abroad. Ioannidis formatted a grand collection of paintings, not only paintings. At the Victoria and Albert Museum at London had these collections of paintings of Ioannidis. I think in the archives of Ioannidis in London there are some information about this. His connection with Comparetti and Neruzzi. Yes, I think it's a nucleus. There are they formated a friendship. There is a company. The familiarity of the letters shows us that Dobriadis is an important figure for them, because always they insist, what news about Dobriadis? There's no answer from Dobriadis, but I send you the search from Dobriadis. That is to say that Dobriadis is not only maybe a political friend, but also a painter of this nucleus, this circle. I think, or I believe, that exploring this circle of Comparetti and Neruzzi, maybe we can found many things about this period of Dobriadis. The collections, the commissions, the activity. I think it's the archive of Comparetti that is in Montale in Tuscany. There are letters there. In the Biblioteca Centrale of Florence, I see the correspondence of Neruzzi, between Neruzzi and Comparetti, but it is certain that there are also other letters. Maybe, I don't know, decades of letters, I don't know. But we have to explore, to research.
And what about Sicilia?
Sicilia. Yes, this. Okay, I made this reference at the end. Yes, we also know vaguely still. I found this information in Italian publications of the beginnings of 19th century, but without bibliography, without archival indications. So, because we also know vaguely still. But this is, I think, la spedizione dei Mille in Sicilia is a critical fact in this movement of Garibaldi. Then, I think the fortune of Garibaldi movements, also in Greek, but I don't know in Bulgaria or in other Balkans, was a controversial point of reference. At the beginning of 20th century, I'm not sure that if one had participated in this spedizione, in these riots, was good for him or not. I don't know. The revolution, the great idea of Greeks, based also in Garibaldi movements, but I don't know, because I don't know also what Dobrowitz says in this autobiografia. Yeah.
I would like to ask you, I will speak in English.
Yeah.
What variations of Dobrowitz, Dombriadis name you have found in Greek?
Yes.
Because I see with Omicron and Omega, and with the me and B, and maybe other. Because I'm interested because I'm making some searches. And
Okay, yes.
I have to know variations.
It's always Dombriadis. From Kaftagioglu and the archives, very rare, very rarely we found also the version Dombridas. But I think Dombridas maybe is an error of transcription. Dombriadis, it always Dombriadis in Greek. In the letter of ancient Greek, but there are Italians, no? They translate from Dobriadis, e lo scrive, sorry, vabbè, in Italian, Dombriadis. In the letter of Neruzzi e Comparetti, Dobriadin con omega e P.
So,
Dombriadi, because M B. The interesting thing is the omega here. Omega, that means Macri, Fournier Macri. Mentre Omicron is Fournier Vrahi, but I don't know why, because Neruzzi written also a book about the pronunciation of Greek language. Maybe he had some special
aspect for him, this name, I don't know. Or Dombriadus, Omicron, and in ancient Greek, the Us in ancient Greek.
I was wondering why.
Yeah, but I think they were Italian, so Dobriadem in Latin. But this is also a joke between Neruzzi and Comparetti. Maybe per their Greek language, per improve their language, they have this correspondence between them in Italian, in Greek, in Latin. Maybe for
how he was pronouncing his
Dobriadi in Italian, Dobriadi.
Maybe in Italian
will be Dobriadem. This is the reference, the portrait. Send me my picture, my portrait. Icona. Icona is the icona mu. My imagine, my portrait, my picture. Dobriadis was the teacher of Neruzzi, as said.
Drugi въпроси?
Oropos. This is interesting.